There is a small moment between the words they just said and the strange feeling that rises inside you. A story that sounds reasonable, but you know it is not true. Not because of evidence, but because of intuition. The worst part is that you cannot call it out and you cannot stay silent either. If you accuse them of lying, it will get worse. They will get defensive, they will explode, and they will flip the story to make you feel like the one at fault. But if you stay quiet and pretend it did not happen, you betray yourself. You start doubting your own senses. You begin to question your version of reality. So how do you hold on to the truth without burning everything down? You need a way to respond that does not create chaos but still keeps your values intact. You need calm, not to excuse dishonesty, but to keep control of the moment. When someone lies, what they want most is your instant reaction. They want you to buy it right away. But when you take a step back and say one simple sentence, I need to come back to this conversation, it becomes more powerful than any direct confrontation. That sentence makes them uneasy because now they know you are not buying it. They begin to panic because you might be seeing through them. They will try to pull you back into their version of the story, but you stay still, you pause. And in that pause, the truth starts to speak. Not through their words, but through their discomfort, through the gap between what they said and what you know. That is where clarity begins. When someone lies to you, the words come out smooth, almost too smooth. There is something in their tone, something in their eyes that doesn't match what your gut is telling you. And in that moment, your mind starts racing. Do I confront them? Do I let it go? Do I pretend I didn't notice? That tension can feel unbearable. But here is what most people don't realize. You don't have to respond immediately. You don't have to fix the conversation on the spot. In fact, the smartest and strongest move you can make is to pause the conversation. When you say the words, I need to come back to this conversation, you are not walking away, you are walking toward clarity. You are buying yourself space to breathe, to process, to let your instincts settle. And more importantly, you are sending a subtle but powerful message. You are telling them, without saying it directly, that something does not feel right. You are signaling that you are not just listening to their words, you are also listening to what is underneath, to what is unsaid, to what is distorted. Liars hate silence. They hate delay. They want the lie to work instantly. They want it to pass through you without friction. Because if it sits too long, it unravels. If you pause the conversation, they lose control of the story. They start to panic. They try to fill the gap. They over-explain. They shift their tone. They suddenly become defensive. That's when you know you were right to pause. The truth does not rush. The truth can wait. But lies demand urgency, and your calm refusal to react becomes the one thing they cannot manage. Pausing does not make you passive. It makes you strategic. It protects you from being pulled into an emotional trap, because a lie is not just about what they say, it is about how they want you to feel. They want you to feel unsure. They want you to question yourself. They want you to defend your reaction so that you never question their story. But when you pause, you are telling yourself and them that your truth matters, that you trust your perception, that you will not abandon your awareness for the sake of keeping the peace. And this is not about punishment. You are not using silence to punish the other person. You are using it to stay grounded in your own values. You are reminding yourself that you are allowed to step back. You are allowed to wait until the fog clears. You are allowed to re-enter the conversation when you are ready. And if they get angry or frustrated or accuse you of being unreasonable, that is another sign. That is their discomfort, not your guilt. Let them feel it. Let them wrestle with the silence. Let them reveal themselves without you having to say another word. So the next time your gut tells you something is off, don't ignore it. Don't rush to confront or comply. Just say the sentence, I need to come back to this conversation. Say it calmly, clearly, and without fear. Then step away. Give yourself permission to sit with the truth until it becomes undeniable. Because when you pause the conversation, you are not avoiding the truth. You are inviting it in. Sometimes you don't need proof. You don't need to catch them red-handed. You don't need a smoking gun. All you need is that subtle discomfort in your chest, that quiet inner voice that whispers, this doesn't feel right. And most of the time, that whisper is enough. You just have to trust it. You don't have to accuse. You don't have to explain. You only have to say what is true for you. Something feels off. That sentence does not attack. It does not blame. It does not corner. It simply states your experience. And that is what makes it powerful, because truth lives in the way something feels. And when something feels wrong, saying it out loud without judgment is an act of strength. Not because it forces them to confess, but because it keeps you anchored in yourself. People who are telling the truth usually don't flinch when you say that. They lean in, they ask questions, they want to understand what feels off, they might ask. Let's talk through it. They're not afraid of your doubt because they know what they said and they know why they said it. But when someone is lying, even gently, even subtly, they will react, not just with words, but with emotion. They might laugh in disbelief, or they might get loud. They might twist your words, or worse, attack your character. You're crazy, they might say. You always do this. You never believe me. And suddenly, the conversation is no longer about what you felt. It becomes about defending who you are. That shift is what liars depend on. They want to shift the spotlight from their words to your reaction, from the story to your doubts. But when you keep it simple, when you calmly say something feels off and you don't chase their reaction, you hold the power. You stay grounded. You allow space for the truth to unfold on its own. You let the silence work for you instead of against you. And here is the part most people miss. You are not responsible for how they react to your honesty. You are only responsible for being honest. That's it. You are not obligated to convince them. You are not required to prove your intuition. You are allowed to feel what you feel. You are allowed to say it out loud, not to accuse, not to win, but to remain connected to what is real for you. So next time you feel that discomfort rising, don't shove it down. Don't second guess it. Just name it. Something feels off. Say it calmly, clearly, without apology. And let it stand there. If they are telling the truth, they will meet you there. If they are not, they will show you. One way or another, they always do. Sometimes the loudest truth is spoken when you say nothing at all. Not because you are avoiding the moment, but because you are choosing to watch it unfold without interference. Silence is not weakness, it is control. And when you are in the presence of a lie, it is one of the most powerful tools you have, because liars do not know what to do with silence. It unsettles them. It removes the feedback they need to shape their next move. It creates a gap, and in that gap, they reveal themselves. When someone is lying to you, they are not just crafting a false story, they are watching your reaction. They are adjusting their words to your face. They are reading your body, your tone, your eyes. They need your engagement to survive. But silence breaks that pattern. It disrupts the performance. It forces them to sit in the space they created. And that space becomes uncomfortable very quickly. When you give 10 seconds of silence, just 10 seconds of stillness, you shift the entire balance of the conversation. They begin to talk more. They start to fill in details that you never asked for. They repeat themselves, they stumble, they justify. And without you saying a word, they start to unravel. Not because you trap them, but because they cannot handle the absence of your agreement. Truth does not need to be defended in every moment. It does not need to be loud. It does not need to convince. But a lie is desperate. A lie wants to be believed. A lie cannot stand still. So when you offer silence, you are testing the integrity of what was just said. You are giving the lie a chance to collapse under its own weight. And here is what makes this strategy so powerful. You stay calm, you stay present, you do not accuse, you do not attack, you simply allow space for them to deal with the discomfort of their own dishonesty. You do not rush in to rescue them. You do not fill the silence out of politeness or fear. You let it linger. Because that silence is not empty. It is full of questions. It is full of pressure. It is full of truth waiting to surface. Silence also gives you time. Time to read between the lines. Time to gather your thoughts. Time to center yourself before responding. It protects you from being reactive. It helps you lead the conversation without dominating it. It shows that you are not easily manipulated, that you are paying attention, that you are not afraid to wait. The person who can sit with silence is the person who holds the advantage. Because silence is not the absence of power, it is the presence of it. It is a declaration that you are not easily moved, that your values are not up for negotiation, that you are not afraid to let things breathe. So the next time you hear something that feels off and you are not sure what to say, try saying nothing, not forever, just for a moment. Count to 10 in your mind. Breathe, watch, listen. Let them feel the weight of your stillness. Let them wonder what you are thinking, because in that moment they will either settle into the truth or stumble deeper into the lie. Either way, you will know, and you will not have had to lift a single word to get there. Not every reaction deserves your attention, but some speak louder than words, especially when the volume rises too fast, when someone moves from calm to chaos in seconds. When a simple question turns into an emotional explosion, that is not a conversation anymore. That is a performance. And most of the time, the people who react the loudest are the ones trying hardest to hide something. When you ask a question and the energy in the room jumps from a level 3 to a level 12, that is your signal. You did not accuse. You did not raise your voice. You did not push. You simply said something like, "That feels off," or "I need some time to think about this." And suddenly, they are on the defense. Their words are sharp, their tone is fast, they are repeating themselves, they are making it personal. And it feels like you are no longer talking about the issue. You are defending your right to even question it. That kind of overreaction is not natural. It is not how truth responds. Truth is steady. Truth can be challenged without panic. When someone is telling the truth, they do not need to escalate. They are not afraid of your doubt. But when someone is lying, doubt feels like danger, and their nervous system reacts. Their voice gets louder, their words get faster, and suddenly they are no longer trying to explain, they are trying to control. You will notice this pattern over time. It repeats. You ask something small, they respond with something big. They bring up the past, they flip the story. They accuse you of being unfair or always negative. They deflect, they project, and now you are the one on trial. That is the power of overreaction. It turns your search for clarity into their defense of chaos. Do not fall for it. Stay grounded. Watch it unfold. Let the overreaction show you what you need to see, because you are not looking for the right words. You are looking for alignment between their tone and the truth, between their emotion and the moment. And if the reaction does not match the level of the conversation, trust that. That is not about you, that is about them. Your role is not to fix their discomfort. Your role is to protect your clarity. If you feel something is off and they respond with fury, let that speak for itself. The truth does not panic, only lies do. So next time someone overreacts to a calm question, take a step back. You do not need to raise your voice. You do not need to explain yourself. You already have your answer, and they just gave it to you. Liars want one thing more than anything else: speed. They need the lie to land before you have time to think. They want the moment to move quickly so you do not pause long enough to see through it. Because delay is dangerous for a lie. It gives space, and space brings clarity. But the truth never fears space. It never fears silence, and it never fears time. When someone is telling the truth, they do not mind if you take a moment. They do not panic when you ask to revisit the conversation later. They do not explode when you say something feels off. They stay steady because they are not performing. They are not adjusting their story based on your reaction. They are simply stating what is real. And real things are strong enough to wait. But a lie has a clock on it. The longer it sits, the more fragile it becomes. That is why liars push you to respond quickly, to agree without thinking, to nod without questioning. They want the story to move fast enough that you never get a chance to catch the inconsistency. That is why when you slow things down, even for a few seconds, they start to break down. You do not need to confront the lie directly. You only need to add distance. Take time, pause the moment, let silence stretch just a little longer. Watch what happens. The story shifts. The tone changes. The words begin to pile up. And in that unraveling, you see the truth. Because truth invites reflection. It welcomes pause. It does not rush. It does not push. It simply stands. So next time you feel pressure to respond fast, slow down. Breathe. Let the moment breathe with you. Because what is true will remain, and what is not will reveal itself in the quiet. The most honest truths are not dragged out of someone. They are not ripped from their mouth in a moment of confrontation. They are not forced through shouting or threats or emotional chaos. The most honest truths rise on their own. They appear when the pressure lifts, when the performance collapses, when the person across from you realizes they are no longer being chased. That is when the truth walks in. You never have to scream to make someone confess. In fact, the louder you get, the easier it is for them to hide. Because noise gives cover, anger gives distraction, but silence gives space. And in that space, something powerful begins to happen. The liar starts to feel their own words. They start to hear what they said, not just through your reaction, but in the stillness they can no longer avoid. That is when the confession comes. Not because you demanded it, but because they realized they were speaking into emptiness. That their story fell flat, that their words held no weight, that your stillness was louder than their denial. The truth emerges not as a moment of surrender, but as a moment of relief. Because even the person lying is tired of carrying it. Sometimes they backtrack slowly. Sometimes they shift their story piece by piece. Sometimes they start with a soft correction. Well, maybe I did. Maybe not always. Maybe just that one time. And with every step, they are not just admitting something to you, they are admitting something to themselves. That the story they built is falling apart. That your calm presence has disarmed them. That they no longer feel in control of the narrative. And here is the key. You never had to accuse them. You never had to prove them wrong. You never had to catch them. You just had to be still. You just had to wait. You just had to trust that the truth wants to be seen. That it cannot survive in shadows forever. That when you give it room, it rises. So if you ever wonder how to get to the truth without burning the bridge, remember this. You don't need to push. You don't need to force. You just need to stop feeding the lie. Step back, stay quiet, watch, wait. Let their words do the work. Let their own conscience become the weight. Because in the end, the most powerful confessions are not given under pressure, they are given in peace. There is a moment in every difficult conversation when the liar realizes you are not playing along. You did not react. You did not accuse. You did not take the bait. And that silence, that distance, that calm makes them nervous because now they are no longer in control. So they pivot. And when that happens, the lie does not just crumble. It turns toward you. They start by making you doubt yourself. They shift the focus from their words to your tone, from their story to your attitude. Suddenly, it is not about what they said. It is about how you made them feel. You are being unfair. You are always suspicious. You are impossible to talk to. And now you are no longer dealing with a dishonest statement. You are defending your own character. This is the trick. This is how manipulation works. It does not always look like a lie. Sometimes it looks like guilt. Sometimes it wears the face of victimhood. The liar says things like, "You never believe me," or "I cannot talk to you without being attacked." And without realizing it, you shift from listening to defending. You start explaining why your questions were reasonable. You start apologizing for making them uncomfortable. And now the conversation is lost. When a lie turns against you, it is because you refuse to accept it. And instead of adjusting their behavior, they try to adjust your perception. They want you to carry the discomfort they created. They want to hand you the shame they feel. They want you to apologize for not surrendering your clarity. But here is the truth. You are not wrong for noticing something feels off. You are not cruel for needing space. You are not the villain for asking a question. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to name your intuition. You are allowed to protect your peace without explaining it to someone who is trying to disturb it. This is the moment where you must stay grounded. Do not defend yourself against distortion. Do not fight to prove your kindness. Let your stillness be the answer. Let your presence be your clarity. Because the moment you start chasing their approval, you lose your grip on the truth. And that is what they want. They want you disoriented. They want you unsure. They want your strength to turn against you. But when you recognize the pattern, you no longer fall for it. You no longer personalize their projections. You no longer take ownership of a confusion that is not yours. You stay still. You breathe. You listen. And then you choose whether to continue or walk away. Not out of anger, but out of alignment. Not to win, but to protect what is real. So when the lie turns against you, do not turn with it. Stay where you are. Stay with your truth. Let the storm rage without stepping into it. Because once you stop trying to be understood by someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you set yourself free. You do not need to control the conversation to lead it. You do not need to raise your voice to be heard. You do not need to win the argument to protect your truth. What you need is calm. Calm is not passive. It is not weakness. It is not silence in fear. It is silence in strength. It is the decision to stay steady when everything around you wants to shake your ground. When someone lies, they are testing more than your logic. They are testing your emotional balance. They are not just trying to change the facts. They are trying to move you off center. Because once they do that, the conversation becomes theirs. But when you stay calm, when you remain composed, when you do not chase the chaos, you remain the anchor, and everything else must adjust to your stillness. You will be tempted to prove yourself. You will want to make them admit it. You will want to confront, to correct, to call them out. But remember, truth does not need force, it needs clarity. And clarity comes when you let go of control and embrace composure. The moment you stop trying to control how they react is the moment you regain control over your own peace. The goal is not to win the conversation. The goal is to walk away still whole, still honest, still connected to who you are. Because some people are not looking for resolution, they are looking for confusion. Some people do not want the truth, they want control. And if you are not careful, you will spend all your energy defending your honesty instead of protecting your clarity. So choose calm, speak slowly, pause when needed. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Let your steady presence unsettle what is false, because the person who can hold their peace holds the power. And when you lead from that place, you do not have to push, you do not have to convince, you simply remain. And that presence alone becomes the truth they cannot argue with. You are not here to chase false stories. You are here to stay aligned with what you know is real. And when someone tries to pull you out of that alignment, let your stillness be the boundary. Let your calm be the answer. Because leadership in hard conversations is not about controlling others. It is about not losing yourself. So if this message resonates with you, take a moment right now and breathe into your truth. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to fight for it. You just need to stand in it. And if you want more reminders like this, if you want to keep building conversations that reflect your clarity, your strength, and your peace, follow along. Because your next conversation does not have to be about winning. It can be about walking away with your integrity intact.